Hi there, this is Renee Rubakava, and welcome to AutoNet. So today I want to talk a little bit about the updates that have recently been made to the generator ArcGIS JS app for Yeoman. So if you're not familiar with this generator, it is a command line tool using Yeoman that you can use to create a starter application using the ArcGIS JavaScript API. And what you get with this is you're going to get a application that's going to include either the 3x version or the 4x version of the JavaScript API, a sample application, sample folder structures, as well as tooling to be able to use Sass or Stylus for your CSS preprocessor. And it's also going to have all the tooling you're going to need to be able to do unit testing, as well as create a highly optimized build of your output of your application. So this is the GitHub page for the Yeoman generator here. You do of course need Yeoman, and I've gone over this details of how to install this before in a separate video. But once you have the generator in there and updated, the 3x application that comes out of it has not been updated. I didn't tweak that at all. I left 3x alone as it currently is, but I did add the 4.0 sample application, which is going to output something that looks like this. So the sample 4.0 application in here, and I'm still tweaking this output application a little bit. I'm having some Travis CI issues. That's why my build's currently failing. But basically what you're going to get is it's going to give you the bower.json that's going to have the dependencies for the 4.0 version of the JavaScript API. And it's going to have these resolutions for Dojo, dgrid, and dstore. And you're also going to get the whole package.json set up for all of your tooling you're going to need to be able to do everything. And it's going to include unit test. So it's already got intern set up. So intern is used for the unit test. And it's got some sample unit tests in here as well. So if we look at something like this components web map unit test. So this is all intern here used for the unit test. I'm also updated the 4.0 test. So instead of using Synon for mocking, I am using test double, which I've been trying out recently, and I like it quite a bit. Pretty big fan. And test double makes everything very easy because what I can do here, and this isn't probably not exactly what I want to do for this particular case, but you can just create these test doubles of methods and then reset them immediately right after. And this is very similar to using Synon sandbox, right? And look at another more interesting test in here. This one is pretty interesting. So I have a few methods here that I'm going to go ahead and mock on a data store that this component is using. So I'm not testing the store. I don't care about really testing what the store does. And then I'm just going to verify that when I do certain things in my component that the store methods get called. And I can even verify they get called with various arguments, which is very cool. So unit tests all run pretty nicely. And let's go ahead and check out the code itself. So the generated code you're going to get is all in here in the source directory. And it comes already set up with the Dojo config built in for you, index.html that's already set up with some templating, and some of this stuff gets removed during the build process. And then we have the app package here, and this package is already set up. We have a package.json that's going to define, has a Dojo build property. It's going to define the app.profile, and we have the app.profile here. It just says everything in here is a AMD file. And we have this store here. Now the store is actually pretty cool that's being used here. So if we come in here to app.js, the store is actually using the ArcGIS JavaScript API 4 accessor as a data store. And that's just so I can watch for when the web map and the view on the store get updated. But it's got some neat functionality here. So we have this get all items method here. So I want to get all of the items from a particular layer in here. So I pass the ID of that layer. And if that's going to do is it's going to check to see if I have I'm using ES6 map to cache the results of these queries. So if I already have the feature set from the layer that I got, I'm just going to go ahead and pull it out of the cache and create a new dstore memory and return that. If not, then I'm going to go ahead and get the layer from the web map, and I'm going to go ahead and create my query. And once I've done all of that, I'm going to go ahead and query the layer to get my results, then return the dstore memory of those results. And that's pretty simple. There's a method here to go ahead and add components to the UI. So if I want to add a new element, or a new widget or component to the view UI, I just have this add to UI method here, which is a proxy for this.view.ui.add. And I also have a zoom to item method, which is basically just going to go ahead and you pass it the ID of the layer that the item resides in, and pass in the item. This is not the actual, excuse me. So I'm going to go ahead and query the features. I'm getting the layer ID is going to get the cache of my ES6 map. So try and find the data that's already in there, pull the feature out of there, then zoom to that particular feature, right? So that's a pretty neat feature there. All right, so let's check out the rest of this app here. So that was the data store being used. And for the components themselves, I've kind of tweaked things here a little bit. That instead of using the Dojo digits or maybe using a framework like React, not a framework, but a library like React or maybe Vue.js to do the components themselves, I'm just going straight to creating DOM elements. I'm using dgrid in this case for this particular sample that comes out of the generator to basically just create a little list of all of the items in the feature layer, and when you click on an item, it's going to zoom to that feature on the map. It's pretty simple to do. So I basically got these methods here, these little helper methods that are being run that I'm using there. Just what happens when I click on an item in the list, and I get this. I use the store zoom to item method, which I showed you earlier, to zoom to that particular item from the list. I've also got the columns defined here to create the grid. I've got a little sort method here to be able to sort my list, update my memory. So this is the dstore memory, so when I want to update it, I set that for the collection of the grid, and I also update the sort. And I've also got this when the view is ready, so when I watch for when the view changes on the store, so when that's ready, I'm going to go ahead and add my grid to the UI and put in this particular position. And then I'm going to return all of the items from the store. So this is the method that I showed earlier that's going to go to the feature layer. It's going to query all the features that are in the feature layer of the server. And I've got my create method, and this is just going to go ahead and create my DOM elements for my component and put everything together for me. And like I said here, I'm using the watch utils once. I only want to know when the view on the store is updated once. I don't care if it gets updated again. And this particular application, I'm not going to be changing the view, so it's okay here. And I just go ahead and run all these other little helper methods here, no big deal. And then what I return back is actually just the create method, an object with the create method. So this is basically just going to be a factory methods here being used to create the components. And that's used for all of these, the web map, and also have this little widget helper, which just adds some of the built-in widgets to my actual view. So I'm using my application. And if we look at the app here, we just have some main.js, and this is pretty simple. It's just going to bring in the components, run the create methods on those components here, and again, run the create method here. I'm passing some options I get from a config.js, and out of config.js, I get information to create a feature layer. So that's what is happening here. We're creating the feature layer based off of what's in the configuration, and the configuration is pretty simple. You know, I don't have a web map ID that I'm using for this map, but I could, and then update my code to be able to use that. So I just want to use the topo-based map, and this is the center, zoom, and then the UI stuff for my map view. And then here's the information for my feature layer that I want to be able to use, where I define the ID, the pop-up template, and the layer type and everything else. Now, if we actually come down here to the main page for this GitHub repo for the application, I have a link to the live demo here. So if we open that up, this is what the application looks like when it's already been built. So I got these toxic release inventory sites mapped here. I just found this data set in ArcGIS Online. Here's my pop-up defined as I set my config. I got my toggle base map here. And if I click on one of these items in the data grid list, it's just going to go ahead and zoom to it. And no big deal. I just wanted to be able to show a custom component of some sort inside this application to give people a starting point of what they could do. And again, just all the pop-ups and everything works. And if we look at the network traffic on this one, let's rerun this again. So if we look for JS, so here is the app.js file, and it's been cache busted. So every time I update the file, it'll update the cache. And you can see that gzip, this thing is only 366 kilobytes. It's actually about 1.2 megabytes on disk, but gzip size is pretty awesome. And we got this little config here. And if we look at the CSS files, we have an optimized CSS file as well. That's just about 300K, and that includes the dgrid CSS and all the CSS used by the widgets and the map and everything else. So that's not bad. That's pretty good. And this is the highly optimized build option that you get with the generator that sets everything up. And it actually creates this app.js file, which has all of your code, including Dojo, your application, and the Esri API, and everything's in there. And this also includes, off of the CSS, this includes everything that you need here. And actually what the generator does is when you run the grunt release tool, it will actually copy all of the resources, images and stuff like that to a particular folder and update the CSS to point to those resources. And one thing I also had to do for the generator in here, if we actually look at, let's go to the sample here and look at the grunt file here that you get with this, there's actually a method here. Let me do a quick search. String replace, right? So basically, the base map toggle looks for the images that it's using for the little in here. These little images here that are being used for the base map toggle. It tries to find them via a relative path, but since I am updating the structure of the output application and everything like that, that's not going to work anymore. So basically, I use the string replace grunt tool to be able to go ahead and search for that pattern in the code and update it to point to where the resources have been moved to. So that was like the one tricky little thing I had to figure out how to do, but that was pretty cool, and it works out really nicely now. So like I said, this helps you basically to get a very optimized output of your application. So give it a shot, try out the generator. One thing also I didn't point out is the fact that the generator will let you use Stylus or Sass for output. So for this application, I'm still using Stylus in here, and that's only because I like the less verbose syntax without all the brackets and everything like that. But you could also use Sass as well. It's not a big deal. It will output whatever you want it to do. Alright, so real quickly, I just want to show what the generator looks like when you run it. So if you run yo ArcGIS JS app, you get this awesome little greeting here. Define name of your application. I'll leave that as default. I'll leave the description the same here. I'll use 4x because it's 4 newer. I'll change this to Sass, and you can put your email in here or just leave it blank. It's up to you. And then the generator is going to go through the process of installing everything for you, downloading all the files, and it runs the once it's downloaded everything, created the application for you, then it runs the Bower install, and then it'll run npm install, and then it'll do the initial grunt task to do the build, to compile your application from ES6 down to ES5 for you using Babel. And that's all there is to it. All right, so at this point, I've gone ahead and run the generator for this folder. And you can check the output here. So I've got my source directory, test directory profiles, and the dist is where the generated code goes to. And you can go ahead and start playing with this now, and you have a great starting point for your application, including the grunt file, sample application, and you even get the unit test. You can run your application, which you can see here. And you get all your unit tests running as well. So go try a generator out. Let me know what you think. and use as a good starting point for your new applications. Thank you.